Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11, taking a look at pitching on DraftKings and FanDuel for tonight's 15-game slate. Good amount of options here. You do have your expensive Madison Bumgarner, but a lot of good guys in good spots like Garrett Cole, Tanner Roark, Michael Fulmer, who we'll talk about. So jumping into the first game here, Garrett Cole take on Zach Eflin, Pirates versus the Phillies. Pirates minus 219 favorites, so definitely the bigger ones on the slate here. You look at him come off a bad start against the Nationals, but at his reduced price tag facing a team that isn't good against right-handed pitching. They rank 28th in WOBA, 21.4% strikeout. You really got to like the Garrett Cole price tag of 7,400 on DraftKings. Great SP2 option. He's been solid for most of the year. Not a big high ceiling guy, but I do think in this type of matchup, he'll be safe enough for cash, and even in GPPs, allowing you to kind of get some bats in there. FanDuel, I mean, I'm a little bit bigger Michael Fulmer fan at the same price tag. Obviously, Cole is fine. If weather started to shake up in Chicago as there is some rain in the area, you can make a pivot to Cole and kind of get some other bats in there because there are a lot of expensive offenses. But overall, decent price for him. Really great matchup, good ballpark factors. So a lot of boxes that Garrett Cole definitely checks off for tonight. As far as Zach Eflin goes, not really using him. Don't really feel the need to against this Pirates offense that obviously hasn't been that great. But obviously you can look at them and just kind of stay away on such a big slate. Padres and Nationals, Tanner Roark versus Luis Perdomo. Tanner Roark's another guy who you can look at here. Much more expensive on DraftKings. He's 10-5. Obviously a great matchup against San Diego, who struggles against right-handed pitching. You remember the last start, I mean, Tanner Roark didn't quite have his stuff. He was a little bit all over the place, but he's a guy who's pitched better at home this year. Coming off a really solid start again, Pirates. He's been remotely, pretty safe for the most part. I mean, he had a down start, just really once over the last 10 starts, and it was against Cincinnati. So completely fine paying up with that price tag if you don't want to quite go to a Bumgarner, which I don't really believe you have to on tonight's slate. So I do think you can kind of stick in that mid-range and feel pretty good. So Roark a fine play in all formats. Perdomo on their side, not really attacking this Nationals offense. I do expect Nationals to hang a crooked number on him. Indians and Orioles here. Trevor Bauer versus Dylan Bundy, and Trevor Bauer 8,900 on DraftKings. I mean, obviously there is some upside with him. Not a perfect spot, not a perfect ballpark. A little concern for him in this matchup. I mean, he's kind of come back down to earth a little bit here. Struggled against the Yankees, struggled against the Twins. Wasn't really that great as far as strikeout performances against Atlanta or Toronto. I don't mind him in GPPs. Obviously, it's kind of a high risk, high reward because you look at the Baltimore offense that could be without some of their bigger hitters. So it might be kind of a dampened lineup. Orioles, yes, they do rank third in WOBA. That's where the downside is, but 22.5% strikeout rate makes Bauer somewhat interesting in GPPs. Not a guy I'm going to lean on a ton, to be honest. But obviously, if you're looking to be really contrarian and deep, he's could be worth a look. Dylan Bundy, on the other hand, yes, he's cheap, but not really looking to play him against this Indians offense that's been red hot. San Francisco and New York. It is in New York, Yankee Stadium there. Madison Bumgarner not going to be facing a pitcher. Also in a better hitter's park, I'm not really a big fan of Bumgarner. His DK price tag, $13K. I feel you can kind of spin down and get similar production. And even the same thing kind of goes on FanDuel. I mean, yes, he is your top kind of pitcher on the night as far as talent-wise. He's also the most expensive. You look at this Yankees team, I mean, yeah, they're going to have a lot of potential for Bumgarner to kind of pitch a really strong quality start. Strikeout upside, I do think it is there somewhat. I think it should be tempered a little bit just because the Yankees don't strike out a ton. Just 17% against left-handed pitching this season. So could he pay off that price tag with a really quality win? Sure. Is that win 100% a lock? No, just because this game is certainly a pick 'em. Tanaka is actually a small favorite, very little. So for me, kind of leaning back on this one, I think both pitchers are kind of off my radar just because of the opposing team's matchup, and also just given that the ballpark works against them, and we're not quite sure who's going to get the win. So for me, I'm remotely staying away just because of the price tags and the lack of upside between the two teams. Blue Jays and Mariners, Marco Estrada versus James Paxton. Another game I'm staying away. Estrada's price tag on DraftKings is absolutely ridiculous. Not really a big fan of his here. Expected to come off the DL here. He's pitched relatively solid this year. I'm not necessarily all over the Mariners. I do like some of the lefties against him, though, in GPPs. I'm kind of just staying away, not sure what you're going to get. I don't think you need to go with that price tag. I don't think you also need to really look at guys because you have Cole, Fulmer, Schumacher, Tanner, Rourke, McCullers. You have a lot of guys in that range on FanDuel, so he's definitely kind of off my radar. As far as Paxton goes, lefty against Toronto hasn't exactly been something to target. Definitely not something to target tonight. Twins and Red Sox, Eduardo Rodriguez, Kyle Gibson. This is a big stay-away game from both sides of the teams here as far as pitching goes. I'm not a big fan of Rodriguez against this Twins offense that is, fairly solid against lefties. I mean, yeah, there's some strikeout upside for Rodriguez a little bit here, but at the price tag, I'm not exactly intrigued when you got a lot of guys in better spots who have been much more consistent. Moving on here, you got the Reds and Diamondbacks, Dan Straley versus RG Bradley, and this is a big stay away game on both sides for me. Both teams projected for over 4.5 runs. Really solid ballpark, warm weather, definitely a stay away. As far as the Mets and Marlins go here, you got Logan Verrey, who I'm staying far away from. I know he's cheap, but not a guy who I'm looking to use tonight. Marlins are decent favorites, minus 152. You look at Conley, I mean, a little bit expensive here on DraftKings, 9,400, but there is some upside. I mean, you look at this Mets team that he's pitched well against in the past. They ranked 19th in WOBA against left-handers, 24% strikeout rate. He's another guy who I really don't mind in GPPs tonight, and 8,800 on FanDuel. So it's just another guy in that kind of 8,400 to 8,900 range that you can feel pretty good about with upside and even not so much with Conley, but with some safety of some of those other guys. So I do really like that range tonight. And as I mentioned, Verrey not really in play on the other side. Jason Hamill versus Jimmy Nelson. Obviously, the Brewers possess some strikeout upside for opposing pitchers. You just look at what they've done this season. I mean, 26% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. Cubs, Jason Hamill, not a big strikeout guy. I mean, fairly average this year. I don't mind it in GPPs at the price. I do think he kind of comes away with a win here. I also wouldn't be surprised if there is a little bit of a blow-up factor. He hasn't really pitched particularly well against Milwaukee. He's coming off a really strong start. I mean, he does have 13 Ks in his last 2 starts. But also, I mean, the blow potential has kind of been there a little bit this year. So I like him more so as an SB2. I don't like him on FanDuel as much, just given he's priced around a lot of other options I like more. So more just specifically tying him down to DK. And Jimmy Nelson on the other side, not really looking to use him against this Cubs offense. Matt Schumacher, Lance McCullers in this next one, and the Angels are underdogs here. McCullers is a favorite, minus 145. I do expect this game to be kind of either one way or the other as far as the pitchers go. I think both these guys have some talent, have some strikeout upside, even though the Angels don't strike out a ton. You look at Schumacher, I like him more so as a play over on FanDuel. Obviously, he's been really stellar against Houston this season. This is going to be the 4th time they've seen him. They do have strikeouts, a big strikeout rate against right-handed pitching, as Schumacher's taken advantage of. 24 strikeouts in 21.2 innings this season. He's only allowed 5 earned over the 3 starts, so you got to like his chances of coming away with a big upside game. I do like the price tag and the points per dollar return of 8,700 on FanDuel more than I do so 10K on DraftKings, but obviously I do think he is a tournament play tonight. Not a cash game guy for me, so just solely stick to GPPs. As far as the other side of things go, I mean, McCullers, a solid arm. You look at this Angels offense, I don't really mind him against it. I do think there is some strikeout upside here for him. He has thrown decent strikeout games against teams that don't strike out a ton. We've seen the Angels when that strikeout rate pitcher comes aboard, they do give in a little bit more, and they are just kind of solely just a middle-of-the-road offense. So I'm treating this game as far as GPPs go. I'm not really looking at it in cash games. Detroit and Chicago here. Jacob Turner versus Michael Fulmer. I like Michael Fulmer quite a bit. 2.13 ERA this year. A decent ground ball rate. He's missing bats. I mean, nearly the same amount of bats he's missing is the same as Madison Bumgarner. Bumgarner 11.6% this year swinging strike rate. Fulmer 11.4. So strikeout rate certainly there tonight. He's a solid favorite. He's going up against a White Sox offense that was just shut down by Mike Pelfrey. So that says a lot about them. They do have a above average strikeout rate, 21%, 24th in WOBA. So Fulmer, another guy who I'm looking at in all formats, really like his price tag on FanDuel. More than worth, I think, the 11.7 on DraftKings. I think if you are paying up, Fulmer is going to be my guy to do it with. As far as the Dodgers and Cardinals go, Michael Walker, Brandon McCarthy, I'm not really intrigued with this game as a whole. I don't like Brandon McCarthy's price tag on DraftKings, 9,300. It's way too high for me. 8,100. Yes, he's pitched relatively well this year. Coming off a strong start against Arizona, 6+ strikeouts in 3 starts. He's won 2 of the 3, 8 strikeouts in 2 of the 3. 81 pricing on FanDuel. I don't hate it, but I also still just kind of like that upper tier just a little bit more. The price tag on DraftKings is a little higher than I would like. I kind of rather spin up to a Tanner Rourke or kind of drop down to guys like Garrett Cole or go all the way up to Fulmer there. So Michael Wacha on the other side, I'm not a big fan of his either. I think this game's just kind of a stay away situation where guys kind of wash each other out. Royals and Rangers here. This one is basically a pick 'em Danny Duffy versus Yu Darvish. I do think this game is going to be very low scoring. Yu Darvish, I mean, he's a guy who, coming off his last start, 9 strikeouts over 4 and a third innings, 20 DK points and a loss. We've seen him do that, the strikeout upside so far this season. He's been relatively solid there. 3 out of his 4 starts have been 7 or more strikeouts. You got to like that. For me, I still think it's one of those wait and watch and see what you can get out of Darvish. I'm not quite sure he goes deep into games. And at an 11.3 price tag on DraftKings, you kind of need everyone to check off those boxes. And same thing with 9,100 on FanDuel. You want guys who are going to go at least 6 innings. You want guys who are in a clear-cut spot. Sure, Darvish, has enough upside for that price. I do think he can generally rack up a lot of strikeouts here, but is it enough to where he's beating out guys cheaper that are going to produce similarly? So for me, I don't think that's going to be the case. Danny Duffy on the other side, DraftKings has a huge crush on him with his price tag. I know he has a decent strikeout rate this year, but I'm not really buying it in this matchup. But I'm also not buying the teams either. The Rockies game here, Atlanta and in Colorado, Julio Teheran, John Gray, another matchup. I think John Gray is a reasonable GPP option. We've seen it before him pitch well in Coors, and usually when pitchers come into Coors, it's relatively low ownership. We saw it against the Phillies. He shut down Toronto at home. He's shut down the Padres numerous times once at home. Did well against Cincinnati. John Gray's a good arm, 8,400. He's going to get that Coors drop down because of the pricing. I even don't mind him as a GPP option on FanDuel, 7,700. And of course, that's all he is just because of the Coors factors. But you look at this Braves offense, 20% strikeout rate, dead last in WOBA against right-handers. A minus 152 favorite. They're expecting Teheran to kind of give up some runs there in Colorado, which he has never really pitched well there. So general GPP option, I think he's a strong arm. And obviously the only downside is Coors. Rays and A's here, Jake Odorizzi versus Sean Manaea. I really don't mind Jake Odorizzi at a cheap price tag, but on a 15-game slate, I'm not exactly on him. For the most part, I think I'm going to be staying away from this game in general as far as arms go. So that's going to wrap things up here with the pitcher nail down. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for our great tools and content.